He said, "Man, that sure is some good-looking stagecoach. That's what they call a motor, a bus, a motorhome." For 60 years, Ernest Borgnine kept quiet about the co-star who made his life hell. Now shocking details emerge about what really happened on set. Violent outbursts, sabotaged scenes, and the coffee-throwing incident that left someone with second-degree burns. But the most explosive revelation wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. Today, the truth about Hollywood's most dangerous feud finally comes to light. Ernest Borgnine's path to Hollywood was anything but planned. Born Ernest Borgnine in 1917 in Hamden, Connecticut, he started life as the son of Italian immigrants chasing the American dream. But before he could even form memories of his birthplace, his life took an unexpected turn. When he was just 2, his parents separated. His mother took him to Italy, where he spent the next 5 years completely surrounded by a new world. He lived in Carpi, near Modena, speaking only Italian, and absorbing the culture as if he had been born there. Then in 1923, everything changed again. His parents reconciled, and the family returned to the United States. This move wasn't just about coming home. It was about starting over. His father changed his name from Camillo to Charles. The family name was shortened from Borgnino to Borgnine, an attempt to fit in and sound more American. For young Ernest, this shift in identity was just the beginning of many transformations that would define his future. Growing up in New Haven, Connecticut, Borgnine had no interest in acting. He wasn't the kid dreaming of Hollywood or sneaking into theaters to watch films. He was focused on sports, enjoying the physicality and competition. His high school yearbook had no mention of drama or theater. At that point, there was nothing to suggest he would ever step in front of a camera. But fate had a different plan, and it started with the U.S. Navy. In 1935, fresh out of high school, he enlisted. He was stationed on the USS Lamberton, serving on the destroyer for 6 years. By 1941, he was ready to move on, receiving an honorable discharge. But just 2 months later, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Watching his country go to war, he couldn't just sit back. He re-enlisted in January 1942, this time serving aboard the USS Sylph, a patrol yacht tasked with defending the Atlantic coast. War changed him. It hardened him. It gave him discipline and a deep understanding of camaraderie, something that would later shape the way he played military characters on screen. By the time he was discharged in 1945, he had risen to the rank of gunner's mate first class and earned multiple military honors. He almost made the Navy his career. He seriously considered re-enlisting for another 10 years. If he had, Hollywood would have never known his name. But then his mother said something that stuck with him. She told him he had a forceful personality and should try acting. That single suggestion changed everything. At first, acting seemed like a strange choice. He had no experience, no connections, and no idea where to start. But he didn't let that stop him. He enrolled in the Randall School of Drama in Hartford, then headed to Virginia, where he joined the Barter Theater. This was no glamorous start. The Barter Theater had been founded during the Great Depression with a simple but unusual idea. People could trade food for tickets. That meant actors were often paid in vegetables instead of money. Borgnine didn't care. He took whatever roles he could get performing night after night. When he wasn't on stage, he was behind the scenes painting sets, fixing costumes, even scrubbing toilets. One night during a performance, he had to chase a live chicken across the stage. The bird escaped into the audience, clapping wildly as people screamed and laughed. It was chaos, but it taught him something important. He learned how to improvise, how to engage with the audience, how to turn a disaster into entertainment. He also worked alongside future stars like Gregory Peck and Patricia Neal, watching and learning. Then came his big moment. He landed a role in Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie. He thought he was terrible. The audience disagreed. The performance was a success, and suddenly people started paying attention. By 1949, he was on Broadway. His debut role was in Harvey, a long-running play starring Hollywood legend James Stewart. But getting there hadn't been easy. Casting directors didn't know what to do with him. His face was too mean for comedy, too funny for drama. It seemed like no one could figure out where he fit. But Harvey proved them wrong. Playing a male nurse, Borgnine found his place on stage, learning by watching Stewart's every move. He even kept a notebook writing down observations, studying the way Stewart delivered lines, learning the craft in real time. The play ran for 1,075 performances, giving him the stability he needed. Then television came calling. In 1951, he made his TV debut in Captain Video and his Video Rangers, a low-budget sci-fi series where he played a villain. It wasn't a prestigious role, but it got him noticed. Columbia Pictures saw something in him, offering him a small part in The Whistle at Eaton Falls. It wasn't much, but it was a foot in the door. His breakout film role came with From Here to Eternity in 1953. Before Hollywood, he had spent 10 years in the U.S. Navy. That experience made him a natural fit for military roles. But nothing could prepare him for playing Sergeant Fatso Judson. The character was cruel and sadistic, a far cry from the real Borgnine, who was known for his kindness. The film's most disturbing scene showed Judson beating Frank Sinatra's character Angelo Maggio to death with a nightstick. It was brutal, shocking, and hard to watch. Sinatra himself had doubted Borgnine's ability to play such a menacing role, but that doubt disappeared once filming started. Borgnine threw himself into the character completely. He isolated himself for days to get into the right mindset. When the cameras rolled, he became someone else entirely. His performance was so convincing that Sinatra refused to talk to him off camera for weeks. Even crew members avoided him. The intensity of the role didn't just affect his co-stars. It stayed with him long after filming ended. He later admitted that he had nightmares about the scene for months. Audiences had an even stronger reaction. Some people were so disturbed by his performance that they sent him death threats, unable to separate the actor from the character. The role took a toll on him, but it also made him a star. 2 years later, he shocked Hollywood again. This time, he wasn't playing a villain. In Marty, he took on the role of an ordinary butcher looking for love. It was the complete opposite of Fatso Judson. The film itself was a gamble. It was made on a tiny budget of $343,000, an unheard-of amount for a movie that would go on to win Best Picture. But Marty connected with audiences in a way no one expected. At the 1955 Academy Awards, Borgnine won Best Actor. He was 38, making him one of the oldest actors to win for a debut leading role. Even more surprising, he beat out Hollywood legends like James Dean and Spencer Tracy. His acceptance speech was simple. He thanked his mother for encouraging him to become an actor. But the truth was, he almost never got the role in the first place. Director Delbert Mann originally wanted Rod Steiger, who had played Marty in a television version. Borgnine wasn't even considered at first. That changed after a chance encounter at a Hollywood party. He charmed the producers so much that they decided to give him a screen test. His performance was so natural that Mann later said Ernest Borgnine didn't act Marty. He was Marty. That role didn't just change his career. It changed Hollywood, proving that movies didn't need big stars or huge budgets to win over audiences. Borgnine never let himself be boxed into one kind of role. In 1967, at 50 years old, he played General Worden in The Dirty Dozen, a film that became a cultural phenomenon. He insisted on doing all his own stunts, including a dangerous leap from a moving train. His younger co-stars, including Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson, were impressed by his stamina. 2 years later, he shocked audiences again in The Wild Bunch, one of the most violent westerns ever made. His character Dutch Engstrom was ruthless, yet strangely likable. One scene stood out above the rest. As he gunned down dozens of men, he laughed like a madman. That moment haunted him for years. Meanwhile, Ernest Borgnine's journey to television fame was full of surprises. His big break in television came with McHale's Navy. The show ran for 4 seasons and made him a household name. Borgnine played Lieutenant Commander Quentin McHale, a laid-back officer leading a misfit crew. The role was nothing like the intense characters he had played before. What most people didn't know was that his performance was shaped by real experience. He had served in the Navy during World War II, spending years aboard the USS Sylph. That gave him a natural confidence in the role, even when the show was at its silliest. But McHale's Navy wasn't just laughs and easy success. During the second season, Borgnine suffered a serious accident on set. A pyrotechnic device exploded too soon, burning his face and hands. Filming had to stop for 3 weeks while he recovered. When he came back, his dedication was stronger than ever. That same year, he earned an Emmy nomination for the role. The show even had an unexpected effect on real military operations. A classified memo from 1965 revealed that the U.S. Navy had consulted with the show's writers. Some officials believed McHale's creative problem-solving could be useful in real life. The result was Operation McHale, a series of naval training exercises inspired by the show. Details about those exercises are still classified, but the fact that a sitcom influenced military strategy is unbelievable. Borgnine's television career kept changing in ways no one saw coming. In 1984, he took on the role of Dominic Santini in Airwolf, a fast-paced action series about a futuristic helicopter. By then, he was 67 years old, but he refused to slow down. He even did many of his own stunts. That decision nearly cost him his life in 1985. During filming, a helicopter lost control and crashed just feet from where he stood. His quick reflexes saved him, and he walked away with only minor injuries. Then came a role that introduced him to an entirely new generation mermaid man in SpongeBob SquarePants. It all started with his grandson, who was a huge fan of the show. The boy kept telling him he should be on it. One night in 1998, Borgnine mentioned this at a charity event. A Nickelodeon executive was there and asked him to read a few lines right then and there. With nothing but a napkin for a script, he delivered the performance that got him the job. Mermaid Man became a fan favorite, appearing in 17 episodes over 13 years. The show's creators even added little nods to Borgnine's real-life Navy service in the character's dialogue. His final recording session happened just 2 weeks before his death. In 2012, at 95, he was still working, making him one of the oldest active voice actors at the time. For a man who became a TV legend, Borgnine once wanted nothing to do with television. In 1956, fresh off his Oscar win for Marty, he was offered the lead role in The Real McCoys. He turned it down, telling reporters television is a fad. It'll never last. Back then, most movie stars saw TV as a step down. That mindset changed in 1961. At a charity event, he met a young boy battling a terminal illness. The child told him that watching his movies in the hospital brought him joy. That moment hit Borgnine hard. He realized television wasn't just about entertainment. It could reach people in a way that movies couldn't. By the time he decided he wanted to do TV, The Real McCoys was already a hit with Walter Brennan in the lead. That rejection was a lesson for Borgnine. When McHale's Navy came along just months later, he grabbed the opportunity. Years later, he admitted he had been wrong about television. In an interview, he said, "I was a fool to think TV was beneath me. It's not about the size of the screen. It's about the size of the audience's heart." Ernest Borgnine lived a life filled with unforgettable performances, but his love life was just as dramatic. Over 95 years, he married 5 times. Some marriages ended in heartbreak, others in scandal, and one in lasting devotion. His first wife, Rhoda Kemmons, was with him before fame. They married in 1949 and had a daughter, Nancy, in 1952. For nearly a decade, they built a life together, but Hollywood changed everything. As Borgnine's career took off, their marriage fell apart. By 1958, it was over. The next chapter in his love life began with Katie Girato, a Mexican actress known for her fiery presence on screen and off. They married in 1959, but their relationship was anything but peaceful. Their fights made headlines, and their passion often turned into public arguments. By 1963, they had enough. Another marriage ended, another lesson learned. Then came the shortest and most infamous of them all. In 1964, Borgnine married Broadway legend Ethel Merman. Their entire relationship lasted just over a month. At first, it seemed like a Hollywood fairy tale. They married in June, then set off on a honeymoon to Japan. But instead of romance, the trip turned into a disaster. Fans surrounded Borgnine wherever they went. Merman, used to the spotlight, felt ignored. The tension grew worse with every passing day. In Tokyo, things exploded. Witnesses later recalled hearing a heated argument echoing through the halls of their hotel. By the end of the trip, Merman had reached her breaking point. In a fit of rage, she threw a diamond and pearl ring into a koi pond. Less than 5 weeks after saying "I do," she filed for divorce. Merman never spoke about the marriage again. Instead, she let her silence do the talking. In 1978, she released an autobiography. One chapter was titled, "My Marriage to Ernest Borgnine." Readers turned the page expecting a story. Instead, they found nothing but a blank page. It was a statement that said everything without a single word. Borgnine later admitted how much it hurt. "That blank page said more to me than anything she could have written," he said in an interview. "It was a slap in the face I'll never forget." After that disaster, Borgnine married Donna Rancourt in 1965. They had 3 children, Sharon, Christopher, and Diana. This marriage lasted longer than the others. But by 1972, it too ended in divorce. Then finally, he found the one. In 1972, Borgnine met Norwegian businesswoman Tove Tresnes at a party in Las Vegas. She knew his reputation and hesitated at first, but Borgnine won her over with his charm. They married in 1973, and for the first time he found real stability. Tove wasn't just his wife, she was his partner in every way. She built a successful beauty business, and Borgnine became her biggest supporter. He even joked that he was the oldest living Avon lady in the world after appearing in her ads. Their love endured for nearly 4 decades longer than all his previous marriages combined. In the final years of his life, Borgnine often said that Tove was the reason he kept going. In his last interview just weeks before his death, he said, "I think it's because of the love I have for Tove." On July 8, 2012, he passed away with her by his side, holding his hand. After years of searching, he had finally found the love that lasted. Meanwhile, Ernest Borgnine and Shelley Winters were both stars with strong personalities, which made their time together on the Poseidon Adventure anything but easy. The 1972 disaster film followed a group of passengers fighting to survive after their ship capsized. Borgnine played a tough detective, and Winters played his determined wife. Their performances were intense, but behind the scenes their working relationship was full of tension. Winters was known for her demanding approach. She believed in fully understanding her characters and often pushed for changes to the script. One day she arrived on set with a 20-page document outlining her character's backstory. She insisted on rewriting lines to fit her vision. The screenwriter resisted, and Borgnine found himself caught in the middle. He later admitted that working with Winters was exhausting because she wanted to control every detail. The biggest challenge came during a difficult underwater scene. Winters insisted on doing her own stunts, even though the production team worried about safety. She wanted to prove she could still swim like a champion at 51. What should have been a quick shoot stretched into a brutal 14-hour day. The scene had to be filmed 65 times before the director was satisfied. The long hours frustrated everyone, including Borgnine, but he remained professional. Later, he called it one of the hardest days of his career. Despite the struggles, Winters' performance was unforgettable. Her dedication paid off when she earned an Academy Award nomination. Borgnine, despite his frustration, later admitted that Winters' instincts were often right. Years after the film, he described her as a force of nature. Difficult, unpredictable, but undeniably talented. He believed that working with her was both a challenge and a privilege. In the end, their clashes on set only added to the intensity of their performances. Moreover, Ernest Borgnine had always admired Spencer Tracy, but working with him on Bad Day at Black Rock in 1955 was something else entirely. It wasn't just about respect, it was about intimidation. Filming started on July 12, 1954, in Lone Pine, California. The heat was brutal, soaring past 100 degrees, but Borgnine barely noticed. He was too busy worrying about sharing the screen with one of Hollywood's greatest actors. Tracy was 54, a two-time Academy Award winner, and known for his no-nonsense approach to acting. Borgnine, at 37, was still proving himself. That gap in experience hung over every scene they shared. Tracy had a way of keeping his co-stars off balance. He didn't just memorize lines, he changed them, improvised, and delivered them with such confidence that it was impossible to tell what was scripted and what wasn't. Borgnine wasn't used to that. One day, Tracy threw in an unexpected line during a tense scene. Borgnine froze. The moment was real, and that exact take made it into the final cut. Director John Sturgis liked to film in long, uninterrupted takes. For an actor like Tracy, that was no problem. For someone like Borgnine, it was a nightmare. On August 17th, during an important scene, he messed up his lines 7 times in a row. With each mistake, Tracy's frustration became more obvious. Borgnine felt smaller by the second. That tension between them bled into their performances. Borgnine played Coley Trimble, a short-tempered thug. Tracy played John J. McCready, a man who didn't back down. Their scenes together already had weight, but nothing compared to the fight scene in the town's diner. Filmed on August 23rd, this brawl became one of the most memorable moments in the film. Tracy, playing a one-armed war veteran, had to take down Borgnine's character using pure skill. In real life, Borgnine was bigger. He stood 5'9" and weighed around 210 pounds. Tracy, though slightly taller at 5'10", was much lighter at 160 pounds. Their physical contrast made the scene even more intense. They needed 14 takes to get it right. By the 7th, things got too real. Borgnine accidentally landed a hard punch to Tracy's jaw. The set went silent. Tracy paused for a second, then shrugged it off like nothing had happened. Borgnine, already nervous, now felt even more on edge. He kept messing up. The pressure only got worse. Then came the moment that stuck with Borgnine for years. Tracy, staring him down, delivered the line. "You're not only wrong, you're wrong at the top of your voice." Something about the way he said it felt personal, like he wasn't just talking to the character but to Borgnine himself. The final part of the fight involved Tracy flipping Borgnine onto a table using a single-arm judo throw. No stunt doubles, just 2 exhausted actors giving everything they had. They filmed the last take at exactly 4:17 p.m. The frustration, the sweat, the exhaustion, it all made the scene feel raw and real. Despite everything, that fight changed things between them. Tracy, who had spent most of the shoot keeping Borgnine on edge, suddenly had a new kind of respect for him. Not long after, he recommended Borgnine for Marty, 1955, the role that won him an Oscar. Then Ernest Borgnine signed on to Johnny Guitar in 1954, expecting a typical film shoot. Instead, he found himself in the middle of one of Hollywood's most explosive feuds. Joan Crawford and Mercedes McCambridge didn't just dislike each other, they were at war. The trouble started when Crawford discovered that McCambridge's husband, Fletcher Markle, had once been involved with her. That bit of history was enough to set her off. From that moment on, she made McCambridge's life miserable. One day, Borgnine watched as Crawford stormed onto the set, grabbed McCambridge's costumes, and tossed them onto the highway. The crew had to rush to gather them before they were lost to the Arizona desert. Borgnine tried to focus on his work, but the tension made that nearly impossible. Crawford and McCambridge refused to be in the same room. Their scenes had to be filmed separately, forcing director Nicholas Ray to stitch everything together later. That was frustrating enough, But things got even worse. On September 3rd, during a particularly heated moment, Crawford and McCambridge lost control. They went from shouting to swinging. Borgnine and co-star Sterling Hayden had to jump in and pull them apart. It was chaos. Later, Borgnine called it the most unprofessional behavior he had ever seen. Despite all of this, Crawford never turned on Borgnine. He actually got along with her, but he saw enough to know that her temper had no limits. One day after a bad take, she grabbed a cup of hot coffee and threw it at a young production assistant. The poor guy suffered second-degree burns. Borgnine never forgot that moment. In an interview years later, he said Joan was like a ticking time bomb. You never knew what would set her off. Then there was the time he accidentally walked in on her screaming at a costume designer. Her voice was sharp. Her eyes were wild. Borgnine didn't say a word. He just backed out of the room before she could turn her anger on him. Crawford wasn't all fury, though. On the last day of filming, she surprised the crew with personalized bottles of Pepsi. Her husband was the CEO of Pepsi Cola, and this was her way of showing gratitude. But even that small kindness couldn't erase the tension. Before she left, she had one final showdown with McCambridge. She warned her loud enough for everyone to hear that she would ruin her career. Years later, Borgnine looked back on the experience with a mix of awe and disbelief. Working with Joan was like walking on eggshells while juggling dynamite, he said. She was brilliant, but boy was she scary.